Welcome back to the Adventist Clarity Project. We seek to clarify important things about doctrines and institutions within the Adventist Church. And I am your host, Jason Gonzalez, and today we will speak about something that we said we will speak from last time, and is Biblical Research Institute. And we are going to go in a very systematic way, presenting to you what is a Biblical Research Institute, the history of the Biblical Research Institute, who are the individuals who work in the Biblical Research Institute, and finally, what is the role of the Biblical Research Institute. And so we are going to start by just simply sharing with you what is the Biblical Research Institute. But first, let me clarify why this podcast. Last time we were speaking about how Adventist beliefs are formed, are constructed. What is the process? What was the history of our beliefs? Well, today, as I said last time, I am going to speak specifically on the Biblical Research Institute that should have a very important task when it comes to Adventist doctrines and beliefs, on how those doctrines should be formed, in principle, of course. And later on, I will give a critique of what I think is the problem facing the Biblical Research Institute and our Adventist theology today. So let me begin by, again, what is the Biblical Research Institute? So the Biblical Research Institute is an official organization of the General Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and it was established to promote careful scholarly study and defense of our biblical teachings as understood by the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So, by this time, you should know that the primary mission, and I know we will speak a little bit more about that later on, but the primary mission is to provide theological guidance, produce research on doctrinal and ethical issues, and offer resources that uphold the official beliefs on the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So in practical terms, the BRI, as the summary of the title says, the Biblical Research Institute or the BRI, helps maintain the theological integrity of the global church. And I have to repeat that one. It should help, and that's the mission, maintain the theological integrity of the global church. It advises church leadership, publishes scholarly work, and organizes conferences and consultants for pastors, theologians, and church leaders around the world. It also collaborates closely with Adventist universities and seminaries. But we will come to that in a little moment. For now, what is the history of this Biblical Research Institute, and why was it created in the first place? So this is the website, where if you see this podcast or you hear this podcast on YouTube or on our podcast platforms, this is the website where you can go and check the work that the Biblical Research Institute does. So most of this information, I am taking it from the official website of the Biblical Research Institute, that is under the Adventist Church official website. So as part of the history, it was established by an action of the General Conference Committee in 1975, a long time ago, but it was established in 1975. So the historical roots, they even go back before that. There was a committee established in 1943, which was called Defense Literature Committee. it was in the beginning sort of like a similar, not so structured, not so official a, group of people who had or who were part of this committee. And then in 1952, it was called Committee on the Biblical Study and Research. And it consists of several Adventist theologians and staff working at the world headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, which is, as you well know, located in Maryland, in the and around the Maryland area. So this is important to understand. The first steps towards forming the Biblical Research Institute were who in 1943. And then in 1952, it got a different name. Remember, up to this point, it was not official. But then finally, in 1975, through an action taken by the General Conference Committee, it was established. And what are the people who work there? And of course, I will only highlight those who work currently these days there. This might change, but these are the people who currently work there. And each of them, each of them have a, a an area that they focus their expertise on. So let me show you these individuals, and you can find this in the website. This is not something I am sort of um, um, picking from somewhere else, but from the website. So this is the first individual, and his name is Elias Brasil de Souza. He is the director of the Biblical Research Institute, and he specializes in Old Testament studies. The, the doctrine of the sanctuary is one of his key areas of study, and hermeneutics. For you who do not understand what hermeneutics means, it's just methodologies. What are the methodologies, or what is the methodology in which we study the Bible? In summary, right? We can spend a lot of time talking about hermeneutics, but that's his role. He's the director, but he specializes on three key areas: Old Testament, the doctrine of the sanctuary, and hermeneutics. So it is understood that Elias Brasil de Souza will be the one leading the church conversation worldwide on this topic of the Old Testament, the doctrine of the sanctuary, and hermeneutics. Now, some of these people that I'm going to show you, they overlap in terms of their areas of study and emphasis. They overlap. However, even though they overlap, they sort of share that job, or I can say that burden of leading the theological and doctrinal defense and the doctrinal study and the doctrinal development of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And actually, we pay these people for that. Our tithes, right? They are used at some length, of course, not a match, to pay these individuals. So this is the first one, Elias Brasil de Souza. He serves as the director. So the second one is Clinton Willem. Clinton Willem is an associate director, right? There is the director and there are associates. And there are different associate directors, but he's one of the associate directors of the Biblical Research Institute. I know this man personally, just as I know personally Elias Brasil de Souza. He's from Brazil. And Clinton Welling, he's an American. He's the associate director, specializes, specializes in New Testament studies, biblical theology, and the writings of Ellen G. White. So these are his three key areas of expertise. So he's a New Testament scholar, biblical theology, and a scholar on on the writings of Ellen G. White. So if there is somebody who should be leading the conversation on how we should study Ellen G. White in the World Church, is Clinton Whelan. Or probably I am mispronouncing that name, but I hope I am making sense of who the person is. Clinton Whelan, if I am saying the name wrongly, please correct me on the comments. And you can show me there how to pronounce exactly the name. All right, so let's go with the third individual, and this is Dr. Alberto Tim. He is the Associate Director also of the Biblical Research Institute, as I said before, and he's an expert in Adventist studies. So when it comes to historical development of Adventism, history, and theological development, he is the expert. Ellen G. White is his focus and historical theology. And in this sense, he overlaps with Clinton, right? Dr. Alberto Tim, say again, his expertise is Adventist studies, Ellen G. White, and historical theology. There is one more. And as you can see, these people, they are from different parts of the world. I don't remember exactly where is Dr. Alberto Tim from. I think he's from Brazil, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, um, he is also an associate director, and he specializes in those three areas. One more individual that I want to share with you is Pastor Daniel Beriaco, or sorry, Dr. Daniel Beriaco. He is associate director as well, and his focus is on Old Testament exegesis, and in this he overlaps with Dr. Elias Brasil de Souza. He specializes in biblical Hebrew text and linguistics and biblical theology. So that is his specialty. There is one more individual, and the last one. He's Frank Hazel. He's associate director, and he specializes in systematic theology, biblical hermeneutics, and biblical theology. So systematic theology is the area of the discipline in theological study that focuses on organizing a systematic framework for Adventist theology, and in general for theology. But in this case, his systematic theology is focused on that. So he also focuses on biblical hermeneutics, just as Dr. Elias Brasil de Souza, and biblical theology, just as some of the ones that I have been showing you here. So those are the people who work there. Let me now show you the role of the Biblical Research Institute. And this is the role. And this is a summary of the role, but now I am going to read from the website how is it that they perceive the role of this institute from the General Conference, and how we as Adventists should perceive the role of this General Conference office or institute. So we can summarize that role in three key points. The first point is theological research, right? These people, this group of people, should organize the theological research and conversation of the church worldwide. And there is another role, apologetics. These people should organize the apologetics of the church, how the church defends its beliefs. And of course, the third mission there is a mission of service, help pastor churches, divisions with whenever there is a concern on Adventist theology. And when there is the feeling of some void, some weakness on our theology, these people are supposed to organize studies and, and committees and research that will eventually help to clarify those that um, those weak points in our theology. So they work with the worldwide church to guide theological conversation and with Adventist university professors as well, right? So they are not alone in this task. These are just what, 5 individuals, and they cannot possibly cover all Adventist theology. So they should work with other individuals, with other theologians of the church that work throughout our colleges and universities. Andrews University, Loma Linda, among others, of course. It should not be only Andrews or Loma Linda. There are many other colleges here in the US and in other parts of the world. And these 5 individuals should get in contact, organize conversations with these theologians, and sort of steer an Adventist theology that should make sense and should make also a sense of the Bible and what is it that we believe. So I am going to read, and this is I am taking this from the website, and you can go there and check on the website how is it that they describe the mission, right? So I am going to read. So the first way in which they describe the mission is that they say the Biblical Research Institute exists to advance the study and practice of Adventist theology and lifestyle as understood by the world church and explore further biblical truth. And this is very important, explore further biblical truth. And this is linked with what I said last time. Adventist beliefs are not meant to be static. They are meant to be progressive. The truth, we believe in a progressive truth. And so the Biblical Research Institute is there to study, right? Advance the study and practice of Adventist theology, lifestyle as understood by the world church, and explore, of course, further truth. So they publish a lot of books. You can go there to the website, publish articles, and they often update the website to cover certain topics that uh, are the interest of the current church in different places of the world. So the third thing that they say there is provide theological expertise and resources for administration and departments of the General Conference and the World Church. So they do this, provide these resources and this expertise for the World Church in general and specifically for the General Conference. So they could act as advisors on theology for the General Conference administrative individuals who work there. Identify areas of doctrinal and theological concern and encourage commitment to the truth of Scripture, right? Identify areas of theological concern. So whenever there is a problem with the doctrine of the Godhead, the Trinity, with the doctrine of God, with the doctrine of the Sabbath, with the doctrine of the second coming, and so on and so forth, these people should be the one leading uh, these conversations and clarify and make um, their possibilities, organize further um, um, further studies. The last thing that they say is encourage and facilitate dialogue within the Adventist theological community to foster doctrinal and theological unity in the church. That's what I've been saying, that they should not work together alone because they are just 5 individuals and we have plenty more theologians and experts in the church. So they should encourage and engage, facilitate those dialogues, those conversations within the Adventist theological community to foster doctrinal and theological unity. Now, the reason why and I'm basing my critique to finish my podcast for today is that this is the way it is supposed to work. Now, the reality is that today it comes as a surprise that people do not first understand how our theology is formed, but also they do not understand who are the ones responsible for organizing the conversation, for leading the conversation. So in this case, if you want to know who are the people in charge of leading those conversations, not dictating the conversation, but leading the conversation, are these individuals that we pay them for and they work in the General Conference. And again, I will show them quickly to you. The director, Elias Brasil de Souza, Clinton Willing, Alberto Tim, Daniel Bediaco, and Frank Hazel. These are, of course, the individuals that we should be looking for whenever there is a problem, even in a local church, right? And of course, they should work together with other theologians that we have, many. Now, it is very important to highlight that that again is in principle how it should work. In reality, from my opinion, is not working like that. The church, the way these people, first, nobody knows who they are, right? Or I shouldn't say nobody, that is a generalization, and I shouldn't generalize that way, but I believe that there is a lack of knowledge of the role of these individuals. Many people do not know who they are, and we do not take the time to, and I am speaking as a pastor, we do not take the time to explain to our people in the church and the people whom we prepare for baptism, how is it that our theology works, and who are the people in charge of those studies. If you ask a Catholic, they would know that the ones in charge of the theology is first the Pope, and second, the cardinals and the cardinal college there, who they organize to study Catholic theology. There are other churches who have that clarified as well. But when it comes to the Adventist, even though that's the sign, there is a definition on how it should work and what is the role of the Biblical Research Institute in this case. Many people ignore that, and we have no idea. So, because of that, and this is my biggest critique, because of that, our theology out in the public, out in the media, is not being led, organized, and steered by the Biblical Research Institute or our Adventist theologians in our universities, but is being led and organized and promoted by individuals who are not first part. They shouldn't have that position, they shouldn't take that position by themselves. They can preach, of course, and I am going to speak about this next time. Who are these people who are the leading the conversation out there, and they shouldn't be the ones, even though I am from now I am going to suggest that I'm not trying to say that they shouldn't speak and say anything and try to interpret the Bible as they think, but they have too much control of what is said in our local churches because they have a lot of media power. But when it comes to media power, I believe that if we are speaking about theological concerns and theological study on the sanctuary, Old Testament, the book of Revelation, and in fact, all our doctrines and our doctrinal studies, the Biblical Research Institute should be the people that we see organizing those conversations. They are not the one, again, dictating how the conversation should go, and they are not the ones saying how the doctrine should be, but they should be the ones leading the conversation. Because that's why they are for. If not, let's just get rid of that office and let's just say that, okay, there is nobody who does that job. So that is my critique. And I know many of them personally. I mean, out of these five, I know three of them: Clinton Welling, Alberto Tim, and Elias Brasil de Souza. Personally, I don't know them in terms of how they are as a person, as an individual, but I know what is the work that they do. And in the case of Dr. Clinton Welling, he used to be a professor back at IAS, where I did my first master. By the time I got there, he was not working, but he used to go there and teach some classes at IAS. So my advice for you as an Adventist is, and that's why I want to bring clarity to this. If you want to understand the theological conversation of the church, do not go first, right? First to random uh, YouTube channel podcast like this, or random people on the internet, or even, right, uh, popular pastors. Why not? I mean, they can. Again, I am a pastor, and I think I feel I have responsibility when it comes to studying theology and studying our doctrine. However, it is not my task, because it's not my job to oversee and lead the conversation. Is the job of the Biblical Research Institute. And also, and I think this is an advice for general conference leaders if they are listening to the podcast, or one of them listens to this, is try to promote the way in which the Adventist theology should develop and work, right? Teach the people how this should work. And people who work in the Biblical Research Institute, these 5 individuals, if you're listening to this podcast, um, it is good that you publish articles and books, but if nobody knows about them, if nobody understands, if nobody knows the existence of these things, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. And somebody else will take the lead for you. So my advice for them to be more present in our media, visit more our local, and I know it's just 5 individuals, but if they organize a little bit better, I guess it would be better for our theology. So that is my critique. I do not believe that the church, the way it is designed, is working the way it should be. But I think there is a lot to improve, and there is a lot of room, and I believe that never is late. Or maybe I am just totally wrong, and probably the Adventist theology and the way it should be working, it is just working great and fine. I do not believe that. I believe that some individuals, they have too much concentration of media power, and they happen they happen not to be the individuals who should lead our theology. So um, this is the way I will finish today, with that appeal. But anyways, thank you for joining me on the Adventist Clarity Project. Stay tuned, right, for our next episode, where we continue to seek clarity and understanding of our Adventist faith, theology, and mission. And I will see you until next time, where I am going to speak about those people whom I believe are happen to be the people who most of our church members are listening to, and sadly, they is not their role, is not these people's role to lead those conversations. Although, again, they can do it. So that's going to be um, my topic for next time. So stay tuned again, and see you next time. God bless.